These are the answers for the Algebra Regents January 2015 multiple choice. Remember that each one is worth 2 credits. In question number 1, the owner of a small computer company has one employee who's paid an hourly rate of $22. The owner estimates his weekly profit using this equation. In this function, what does X represent? Well, the amount of money that he takes in is the 8,600, and then he subtracts it by 22 times an X. That times an X, because it says that the person is making $22 an hour. This is the amount of money, and this is the number of hours that he works, because you'd have to multiply $22 an hour times the number of hours that he works. So choice 2. In question number 2, you want to use the canceling out method. It says that he runs the 40-yard dash in 4.5 seconds. He wants to convert his speed into miles per hour. That means you want the miles on top. You want miles on top, and you want hours on the bottom. If you use the canceling out method, yards cancels out with yards, seconds with seconds, minutes with minutes. And then we have this, all right? So we have, it looks like we have feet and feet on top. We have miles and we have hours on the bottom. They want to know which one is written incorrectly. Well, it's this one because it's actually flipped upside down. If we flipped it upside down, then the feet would cancel out with the feet, and you'd be left with miles on top and hours on the bottom. So that is the one that is written incorrectly. In question number 3, which equation has the same solution as this? I would just do FOIL, multiply the binomials together. First, 2x times x is 2x squared. Outers 2 times negative 1x is negative 2x. Inners 3 times x is 3x. Last 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Add together your outers and your inners to combine your like terms. We get a +1, which there is a +1 here. So we get what we started off with. Again, it's just trial and error. You could also graph these. Since they're all set equal to 0, you could graph them and see which graphs were the same as well. In question number 4, Crystal was given $3,000 when she turns 2 years old. They want to know how much money she would have when she turned 18 years old. So how much money, so her parents invested 2% interest rate, all right? They're putting it into a savings account. So that money is going to grow. That money is going to go up. Since that money is going to go up, we could get rid of 2 of the choices right away. We could get rid of the 2 that had minus signs here and here. That would mean the amount of money would go down instead of going up. And then here's the tricky part. Which expression would show how much money she had in the account when she turned 18? It's very tempting to choose this answer that has an 18 here as the exponent, because you're talking about when she turned 18. But the tricky part of this question is that she only left the money in there for 16 years, not 18 years, because she didn't put the money in when she was born. She put it in when she was 2. So there's only 16 years total, which makes it choice 1. Tricky question there. In question number 5, which table of values represents a linear relationship? Well, if it's a linear relationship, it forms a line. You could go through and do stat plot and graph all these points and see which one forms a line. Or the easier way to do it is to figure out how you're getting from point to point to point. In order for it to form a line, you either have to add by the same amount each time or subtract by the same amount each time. Notice in choice number 3, we're adding by 2, adding by 2, adding by 2, where in these other ones, we're adding by different numbers each time. Therefore, because we're adding by 2 each time, it's going to be a line that's going up, and it's going to be a constant increase, consistent increase. So that's going to form a line. It could also form a line if you subtracted by the same amount each time. In question number 6, which domain would be the most appropriate set for the number of household online devices? Can you have a partial number of devices? Can you have half of a laptop? No, doesn't make any sense. So we can't have rational numbers. Can you have negatives? Can you have a negative number of laptops? No, that doesn't make any sense. So we can't have irrational numbers because that's a decimal. We can't have rational numbers because that's a decimal. We can't have integers because those could be negative numbers. So it has to be whole numbers. Whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. In question number 7, you want to solve the inequality. So you want to get the x all by itself, and you want to get the plain number all by itself. So I would try and get the x's all onto one side. I like working with positive letters. So I'm going to add 2/3 x to both sides. Remember that there is a 1 here. So we have 1x plus 2/3 x is 1 2/3. If you wanted to change it into a decimal, 1.6 repeating, that's fine. And then I want to get rid of this -8 from this side. So I'm going to add 8 and add 8. 7 plus 8 is 15. Now I just have a one-step equation. So divide by 1 2/3 or 1.6 repeating, and you get this answer. Now be careful. All right, these are backwards. We can never write an inequality with the letter coming second. The letter has to come first. Well, when we switch it around, we have to switch around the inequality sign as well. So this becomes x is greater than 9. In question number 8, the value in dollars of a car is equal to this equation. So notice that we don't have a number that's over than 1. So that means the amount of money is going down. All right. To the nearest dollar, how much more is the car worth after 2 years compared to 3 years? All that you would have to do is sub in a 2 for the x, sub in a 3 for the x. So we get 18,490, 15,901. And we subtract the two amounts because it says how much more is it worth. So subtract them to find the difference, and you get $2,589. In question number 9, you're looking for which one has the same y-intercept. In order to graph a line in your y equals, you have to have it in y equals mx plus b form. So we need to rearrange to get the y all by itself. And when you do that, remember that your y-intercept is this number right here, the plain plus or minus at the end. When we take a look at our graph, the y-intercept is right here where the line crosses the y-axis. So that y-intercept is -3. You could take each one of these and graph them and see which one crosses at -3 as well. This one's already in y equals form, so you could just type it into your calculator. But these two you would need to rearrange. Same thing with choice number 4, you need to rearrange. When we rearrange number 4 to get the y all by itself, you would do -3 and -3. So we end up with y equals 6x minus 3. -3 is right there. That is your y-intercept. So that's the one that matches. In question number 10, given a rectangle, you're told that the length is 2x minus 6, the width is 3x minus 5. You want to know the total area. The area of a rectangle, you have to multiply the length times its width. So we're multiplying these two binomials. All that you're going to do is FOIL, first outers, inners, last. Add together your outers and your inners, combining your like terms. You get this trinomial, which is choice 2. In question number 11, the graph of the linear equation contains the points 3, 11, and -2, 1. So 3, 11 is right here. -2, 1 is right here. Which point also lies on the graph? So I would just connect those two dots. And now just take a look at your points that they give you. 2, 1, over to 2, up to 1. Is that point on the line? No. 2, 4, is this point on the line? No. 2, 6, is this point on the line? No. Is 2, 9 on the line? Yes, it is. In question number 12, how does the graph of this compare to your original parent function of x squared? So to get from here to here, we're multiplying it by 3. Well, when you multiply it by 3, that gets narrower, it gets skinnier. We are subtracting 2 from just the x. That means that it moves to the right 2. We're adding 1 to the whole thing, which means it goes up by 1. So choice 2 is the correct answer. You could just type them into your y equals and graph them and compare. Here's our 2. This is our original one. This is our new one. So you can see that it gets skinnier. It's moving over to the right and it's moving up. In question number 13, Connor wants to attend the town carnival. Admission is $4.50 plus each ride costs 79 cents. Just from that statement, we can get rid of these two choices. These two choices say that it's $4.50 times the number of rides plus 79 cents. That doesn't make any sense because you're paying 79 cents per each ride. So 79 cents times the number of rides plus the one-time admission fee of $4.50. So now we got it narrowed down to here. Our inequality less than or equal to 16 is the same for both of them. So that's just extra information that we don't need. We want to know the maximum number of rides that he can go on. So now you just want to solve that inequality. So this is just a two-step inequality, minus 4.5 from both sides, divide by 79 cents. You get R is less than or equal to 14.5, blah, blah, blah. So what's the maximum number of rides? Does he have enough money? This is how many rides if he had exactly $16, but can you go on a 0.55 of a ride? No, you can't. Do you have enough money to go on a 15th ride? No, you're short. It would be over $16. So the number of rides would be 14. You would round down on that one. In question number 14, which destination has a median temperature? Median means the middle number in our box and whisker plot. It's the middle line in our box, above 80 and the smallest interquartile range. Well, when we take a look at Ocean Beach, when we go straight down from the median, we get a median of about 77. Here, same thing, we get a median of about 88. So those two choices are gone because they don't have a median above 80. Here, our median is like 86. Here, our median is about 85. Now we want to know which one has the smallest interquartile range. The interquartile range, you have your Q1, which is the edge of the box, and your Q3, which is the edge of the box. We want to know which box is smallest. So this box compared to this box is smaller. So therefore, it would be choice number 4. In question number 15, some banks charge a fee. The equation is 5,000 times 0.98 to the x power, where x is the number of years. So what is the y-intercept of this equation and what does it represent? The y-intercept, if we actually graphed it, the graph of it would look like this. The y-intercept is right here, 0, 5,000. That's the amount that they start with. Remember, this part of the graph would technically not exist because this would be negative time. So the 5,000 is the amount of money that you're starting with, which is choice number 3. Remember, initial means how many you start with. Question number 16, you want to rearrange for R equals. To rearrange for R equals, you want to try and get the R all by itself. We have pi times R squared times H. You could divide by everything except for the letter that you're solving for. So divide by pi times H and pi times H. These pi's cancel out, these H's cancel out. So we just have on the left-hand side, V divided by pi times H equals R squared. The opposite of squaring a number is to take the square root of a number. So square root, and we end up with this, which is choice number 1. In question number 17, which equation has the same solutions as this? Now, when you take a look at this, normally I would say like type it into the calculator or something like that. You could, but you need it, these set equal to 0 as well. What they really technically want you to do, that would be a valid way to do it if you set both sides, if you set this side equal to 0, so do -2 and -2 and then graph them and see. You could do that. What they really technically wanted you to do here was use completing the square, because that's how these are set up as a step in completing the square. So you would, to complete the square here, you'd have to add 7 and add 7 because we got to get rid of our C value. Now you want to, when you complete the square, take half of your B value and square it. So half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. That goes in our little thought bubble. That's the amount that we want to add to both sides. So we have this trinomial equals 16. And now you want to factor that trinomial, do reverse FOIL. What times what is 9? That adds up to 6. It's x plus 3 times x plus 3. We write it like this, which is choice number 4. In question number 18, two functions are graphed on the same set of axes. Which statement is true about the solution? Well, when you have two equations, the solution is where they cross. So if I rearrange this one for y equals, this first one is already y equals. When I go to rearrange the second one for y equals, I would do -3x, divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. I get this equation. So now I want to graph that equation, which is this one. Our original equation was this V-shaped graph because it was absolute value. Remember, to get absolute value, you need to go into your catalog, second and 0. To go into your catalog. And then it's the ABS. So graph it. They cross right here at 6, 3. So they would be choice number 3. In question number 19, Miriam and Jessica are growing bacteria. Miriam uses this formula, Jessica uses this formula, where N represents the initial number of bacteria and T is the time in hours. If Miriam starts with 16 bacteria, how many should Jessica start with to achieve the same growth over the same time? So you want to know when they're going to be equal to each other, when they look exactly the same. So if we sub in a 4 here, all right, it says that Miriam starts with 16. So we need a 16 here. We want to know, if we put a 16 here, which of these choices could I put here for Jessica to make these two equations the same? Well, it's going to be the 4. All right. If you go to graph them, you get the same exact graph for these two equations. If we subbed it in, if we hit y equals and hit second in table, we would get the same amount right there as well. Also, 16 squared is 256. 4 to the 4th is 256. All of these other ones will get different answers. In question number 20, you're looking at a sequence. This is a hard question. They tell you that the f of 0 equals 2. They want to know what the f of 2 is. So if I sub in my 0, for the n into this equation, all right, this is the equation that we're looking at here. If I sub in a 0 for the n, I would have 0 plus 1. This is going to get me to my f of 1, because 0 plus 1 is 1. On the right-hand side, I have -2 times f of 0. Do I know what the f of 0 is? Yes, I do. The f of 0 is 2. So here I'm going to put a 2. So now I have -2 times 2 plus the 3. That comes from the equation. So -2 times 2 is -4, plus 3 is -1. So I know that the f of 1 is -1. Now that I know that, now I want to sub in a 1 for the n. So if I sub in a 1 for the n, I'm going to put a 1 here, and I'm going to put a 1 here. 1 plus 1 is 2. That's going to get me to my f of 2, which is what I want. And now do I know what the f of 1 is? Yes, I do. That's -1. So I can put a -1 where it said f of 1. -2 times -1 is +2, plus 3 is 5, which is choice number 3. In question number 21, so an astronaut is modeled by the function this. What is the average speed in meters per second of the rock between 5 and 10 seconds? So time is always on the bottom of your graph. So time is going to be the x values. We're looking for the average speed or average rate of change. So you're going to use this rate of change formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's a formula that you have to memorize. So now that we have that, we need to figure out what our y values are. We'd figure out our y values by taking our 5 and taking our 10 and subbing it in for t. All right, so 0.8 times 5 squared, 0.8 times 10 squared, you get 20 and 80. Now you want to use that formula. You end up with 80 minus 20, which is 60, 10 minus 5, which is 5, top divided by bottom. You get an answer of 12. That's a hard question as well. In question number 22, tricky question here. Which factor, when factored completely, that's a key word here, the expression p to the 4th minus 81 is equal to what? Now, technically, this is equal to that, but it's not factored completely. All right, you could do more to this term. P squared minus 9 can really be broken down to be p plus 3 times p minus 3. So that word completely is super important. Technically, that is, if we did FOIL here, you would get p to the 4th minus 81. That's equal to it, but it's not factored completely. So therefore, choice number 3 would be correct. In question number 23, the post office charges 46 cents to mail a letter up to 1 ounce and 20 cents for each additional ounce. What function could use to determine that? We have to add 46. That 46 is for the first ounce. So that's what we're adding onto the end of our equation. Then it's 20 cents per ounce, but you already paid for the first ounce with the 46. So it's not going to be this part right here. It would have to be this one because you have to subtract out that original first ounce. And then it's 20 cents times how many extra ounces you have. In question number 24, a polynomial contains the factors x, x minus 2, and x plus 5. Which graph could represent those answers? Well, in order to find those answers or solutions, you need to set each one of these equal to 0. So x equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0. Solve these one-step equations. We get x equals 0, 2, and negative 5. So 0, 2, and negative 5 is where it has to cross the x-intercept. It crosses it for graph number 1 only, right at those spots. So that'd be choice number 1. Remember, each one of those is worth 2 credits. You can see how you're doing so far on the scale score.